Well, Ethan, that is basically the end of our potential draft prospects. We do have potential point guards and wings in free agency. Do you want
Mhm.
to bring up your spreadsheet that you had and we can
Sure,
talk about that?
absolutely. Let me do this.
I'm going to be real with y'all, not to what's the word? Not to damper the mood, but I texted Ethan this before we just earlier today when we were talking prepping for the show. And basically after I looked into free agency, I was much more excited about the draft. So this may not be as exciting, but I'm gonna go ahead and pull it up here, Ethan.
All right.
So, Ethan, you can just take us through your beautiful spreadsheet that you've made for us here.
Yeah, so I just kind of broke down the roster as of today, and then when everybody will either be unrestricted or restricted. The highlighted players here in purple are the two-way guys. So based on this, going into the offseason, we'll have 12 guys that are on guaranteed contracts. Plus, we have two restricted free agents this offseason in Sandro Mamukelashvili and Dominic Barlow. If we bring both of those guys back, that means 14 players plus these three two-way guys that we might bring back. And then that leaves room for one more guaranteed player. However, we could have up to three total picks come draft time, with the Toronto pick, our pick, and then the Lakers' second round pick that we also have, plus the free agency discussion that we have yet to get into.
Beautiful, Ethan. Thank you for setting the stage. One thing I will add: Jamari Booyah is for sure on a two-way next season.
Then I will add him to this. Where
But
is
that's why
it?
it says RFA 2025. You got the right numbers.
Okay, no, I'm good. I'm good. The
Yeah.
numbers still add up. Then
Because that's next
basically, potentially two of these guys will change: Raquan Gray and David Duke, but
year.
maybe. Or is Raquan Gray guaranteed because he's technically restricted
I
25?
do not. If I would assume if you found that number that he is, and
Mhm,
because he's a young player and we had him on the Austin Spurs before we signed him, I could
mhm.
totally see that. But I only officially saw that Jamari Booyah signed a 2-year two-way.
Okay, perfect. You know how these two-way guys always change up throughout the season and during the
That too.
offseason?
Yeah. But do you want to jump in to the potential free agents that we had written down?
Sure. Do you want to pull that list up or should we just go from the dome?
Oh, I thought you had that on here earlier when you
Nope.
showed me. Okay. Well,
I don't.
no, we're good. We're good because I have it on my I don't know why I thought that. I thought I saw that earlier.
Nope.
Um, but because Ethan was showing me this before we were on stream, so I made that up in my head, y'all. But I have a list written down, so it's all good. Yeah, we'll just jump right into this. So at point guard, and there's two guys on this list that are still restricted, also. So really, it's kind of slim pickings unless you want to start getting into like Monte Morris. Not to hate on Monte Morris, but like, is that really who the Spurs,
Mm,
are trying to? Is that going to
right.
fix their problems, or should we just play Blake Wesley at that point? You know what I mean?
No,
Um,
totally.
so the first two names, and these are probably the only two, like, if we're really going to sign somebody in free agency to try to improve the point guard spot, I think honestly these are the two most realistic names, and they're really the only two unrestricted starting caliber point guards that I saw doing my research. Markel Fultz and Tyus Jones.
I would rather have Tyus of those two,
Me too.
personally. Um, but also, I don't know if I really sorry, I just got really close to the camera. I
You're
don't
good.
really know if I want either of them, and only because we have Trey, we have Blake Wesley. We'll probably draft a point guard. I'm guessing.
Right.
I don't know if it works out with a free agent point guard.
Yeah, I I completely agree, and that's why I opened this up by saying this isn't going to be as exciting. But just in the scenario that we do, like you said, you'd rather have Tyus Jones. I would agree with that. But if we say we don't draft a point guard, and say I don't know what the caveat would be here. Say we're moving Blake to the two permanently. just for total speculative talk here.
Okay.
And we signed Markelle Fultz. I'm not going to be mad at that. I know the shooting issue isn't fixed, but I think that he would come in and definitely help on defense,
Mhm.
and would run the offense effectively. Like I still think that would be. I mean, I don't. I say that, and I know he's played better, but now that I'm thinking about it, like how much really is Markelle Fultz an upgrade over Trey Jones? You know,
I mean, not a lot. I mean, Trey
is
Jones has
it a
also
little bit?
improved. Yeah, just
Okay,
like just
it's fair to say that. That's mainly what I was
yeah,
getting at. But still,
yeah. I
yeah.
don't know. I
That's
think
why
I'd
I'd be more sorry.
no, I was gonna, I think I'd rather go get Reggie Jackson.
I you know, the shooting would be more consistent. God bless Markelle Fultz. And hey, shout out to Markelle Fultz for like making an NBA career
Right.
after we
Shout
all
out.
felt like he was done for. Shout out to him being in the playoffs right now. But yeah, Tyus Jones, out of those two, I would for sure go with that. Here are some others. Okay, here's actually something that could maybe, these are pipe dreams. And this is also if we don't draft a point guard, which is probably most likely. But enough caveats. We've done those to start this segment. Tyrese Maxey and
Mhm.
Emmanuel Quickly are both restricted free agents this year. I really actually would not mind throwing a bag at Tyrese. Like throwing a giant bag at Tyrese. I actually wouldn't hate that.
I wouldn't hate that either. I think he's incredible. He just won Most Improved Player. The thing I think will get in our way is I think he'd rather stay in Philly. Um, but I guess you never know, right? Because there is the whole Joel Embiid injury history. There's that we have to take into account. Um,
Do you know where Tyrese is from?
where's he from?
He's from Dallas. Does he want to come home? I know
Don't give
it's
me
not
don't
Dallas,
don't
but
give me hope, Jude.
no, it really is the freaking Hawkeye gif from Endgame.
Don't give me hope.
That's how I feel too, because we shouldn't have hope for this because he's probably going to stay in Philly, and I wouldn't blame that at all. But if the Spurs were like, we're just going to offer the rest of our cap space to you because we can randomly and see if Philly answers,
They'd probably answer.
they would. They would. I mean, look at it. You talked about Embiid's injury history. They want to keep Maxey. That's their
Yeah.
next priority. He's 22. But for some reason, he's like, you know what? Joel's been getting a little injured. I could go back home.
Mm.
Wemby's 20. He matches up with my timeline a little bit more. But don't give me hope. That's my pipe dream.
You
And
know
then
what?
maybe go ahead.
Come home, Tyrese. Come home. Let's make this happen. Let's get a billboard up. Let's make him force his
Let
way out
me
of Philly.
let me double check. I'm pretty sure he's from Dallas, but let me make sure I didn't just cap on here.
Let's pray for a Knicks sweep.
Okay, no. Born in Dallas, Texas, went to South Garland High School. Yes. Okay.
That's my dog right there. I'm in his hood.
There you go. Um yeah, so I mean and Quickly is just another name I threw on there because it's like
Mm,
maybe you could outbid Toronto, but do you really want to do that for Emmanuel Quickly? Probably not, especially if you can get a draft pick.
mm.
And then the other name that I just have written down just for the sake of names is Malik Monk. I know he's a 2, but um, he's an unrestricted free agent, and I think he can handle the ball.
Dang. Malik Monk, huh? That's the name I've never even considered coming to San
Unrestricted.
Antonio. He
There's no
fixes
smoke. Sorry, didn't interrupt you. Go
no
ahead.
no no. All I was gonna say is he fixes the need for an explosive player off the bench. But that's you know what happens to our rotation then? Because would he be the backup point in that situation? So it'd be him, Malachi, Keldon.
Yeah,
It's not a.
maybe. It
I
depends what
mean,
we want to do with Blake. That's the other thing with
right?
that. But I was just looking at guards and like people like I know Malik's a 2, but he is
Mhm,
somebody like who can he can play point guard. Even if it's not like his first position. He also has the size that kind of fits more into a point guard, but that's a whole nother discussion. Um, the reason I bring him up is I was just looking at the top guards in free agency
Right.
that were unrestricted, and he was literally the last name I could find, to just round out and have 5 names to talk about. So I think, that all your questions you just asked are completely valid. It's just, if
Mm.
for some reason we decide to address this issue on the roster through free agency, that's a potential name.
If you could tell me that a trade was definite, I'd say absolutely sign him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's a move,
Mhm.
like, if we got him, then we made some other trades that maybe got off of Devontae Graham, maybe a Malachi. I don't wanna name a bunch of names, but I wouldn't be mad at that at all.
Yeah. Yeah. And just to wrap this episode up here, this one isn't even, the wings are not as enticing as the point guards. And as you can already tell, the point guards weren't super enticing unless it's just a pipe dream. But Kelly Oubre, that's actually someone I wouldn't mind. I think he would be a clear upgrade at the 3. And I know he took kind of that minimum this year to kind of bet on himself,
Mhm.
and has shown out in Philly. So that's really, I think, the most realistic. Um, but to be honest with you, Ethan, probably the next best thing is Shetty.
I noticed that too. I was looking at these free agents here, and I was like,
Oh,
"Chetty Osman, bro."
like,
Well, like, he sounded a lot better, but
oh,
I will
it's just so
say
funny.
my dude is there. I don't know if he's unrestricted or not, but Kentavious Caldwell Pope is there.
And I was looking at forwards on this, and I wasn't looking at, he would be listed as a guard, but obviously KCP can play the 3 for sure. Um, that's one that would be, I mean, I'm never gonna, from what I've seen from KCP over the past couple years in the playoffs and the regular season.
Oh, wait,
he,
he's not available.
oh, he's not.
Wait, how does this work?
I
I'm
think
literally on
somebody else was talking about him being available in free agency. Let me see. Let me go
I
look up
I was
Kentavious
looking
Caldwell
at
Pope contract.
I think he's 25 unrestricted, unless maybe he's got, like, an option.
Let's see here. Okay, he's got a player option this offseason.
There you go.
So if he
That's what I
declines
was
that, he'll be unrestricted.
hmm.
And that is 15 mil though. I feel like he's gonna accept it. I don't know why he'd want to leave Denver.
Right,
Unless he's
right.
just like, I'm gonna go get 20 million from somebody, which I guess could be us. But
Yeah.
I think probably stays another year in Denver.
DeAnthony Melton is another name I like, at the small forward spot,
Victor's been talking about him.
and another guard that I forgot to mention, I don't think he's gonna leave the team he's currently on, but Mike Conley, I wouldn't be mad at if we could get him on a cheaper deal. I know he'll probably wanna win a ring, but it's a veteran point guard that could help develop everybody else. Kinda the same theory as Chris Paul, but, with maybe less money that would have to be thrown toward him.
Yeah. When we get to start talking about the older point guards, honestly,
Mhm.
that just makes me want to draft one more.
Right. Right. I understand that.
But for this conversation, like, I understand why you're bringing him up. But the other 3s that I had, Kelly Oubre, let me just read these off. Kelly
Mhm.
Oubre, Shetty, even though shout out Shetty. Gordon Hayward. I mean, he's 34 now, and that's like is he going to be the backup 3 or the starter? But this is just a potential name. Najee Marshall
I
from
like
the
Najee
I like
Marshall.
Najee Marshall too from the Pelicans. But still, it's like Najee Marshall was a third stringer on the Pelicans until they just had an injury recently. You know what I'm saying? Not to say
Mhm.
that Najee Marshall's not a solid player, but he's more of a depth guy. And then the last thing I have written down, and this is the only reason I wrote this down, is because I literally couldn't find, like after Najee Marshall, there's not really anybody who's had much playing time in free agency, and that's Klay Thompson. And that's just because he could play the 3 and we could offer him a bunch of money and he would help our shooting issue. I don't know if 34-year-old Klay Thompson would help our defensive issue, but if I have to name 5 threes that could potentially be signed by the Spurs and fit on the roster, that's what I came up with.
In a 2K situation, it's perfect.
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean? But I don't I don't think he would want to come to San Antonio, to be completely honest. I think if it came down to it, if he was leaving the Warriors, I think there are two teams that could offer him some money that he would rather go to, and that's the Dallas Mavericks
Okay,
and the New York Knicks.
I could
Um,
see
I
that.
I think both of those teams could really use him as just strictly a three, maybe half a D player.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I can see that for sure. And I was texting you. I've seen some rumors. There was a report a couple weeks ago about how the Magic and him potentially
That's
have
right.
a lot of mutual interest. And you look at how their 3-point shooting's gone in these first two games of the playoffs. It's been really rough. So he would come in and immediately, help with that. But the Mavs and the Knicks, I think, are two solid teams too. I don't. The Spurs are not where they're not close enough to competing for, I think, Clay to consider that.
Right. Even if we went out and got every possible great thing available to us, we still wouldn't be contenders.
Right.
That just wouldn't happen.
It's just we're still in year 2. We're still in year 2, but I think Ethan and I actually I don't I know it's April and I know last year we got some things wrong in our season's predictions. But I think this year will be better than last year or the 2025-26 season, or excuse me, 2024-25
Mm,
season will be much better than the 2023-24 season. I don't know if the Spurs will get to the play-in, but I think they'll be much closer to that.
mm. I would agree with that statement.